I'm wondering about who I will become in the future. I want to become an empowered, active woman with vision, who would take on many responsibilities and be admired by others. Oh my god, I have too many wishes! How about looking for an example to learn about the personality traits that a modern woman should have? Today we have an amazing, talented, and beautiful woman on set. Let's meet her right away. Hi, welcome to IELTS FACE-OFF. I'm Khánh Vy, and today we have a really special guest, an amazing woman that I look up to. Actually, she's not living in Vietnam, but on this special occasion of her coming back to her hometown, we will take this opportunity to have a talk with her on IELTS FACE-OFF. And please welcome on board the one and only Tuệ Anh. Yay!
Here today, and to be invited to be a guest to your program.
Yeah, I know that you fly back to Vietnam and you fly back to England a lot of times. Are you tired? Do you always look fresh?
Well, sometimes I have to fake my appearance, but actually it's quite tiring. But I really enjoy the trip so far.
Yes, so today we are going to talk about a lot of things about your life, and we do hope that your stories will definitely inspire a lot of the young people out there,
hopefully,
including me. So let's talk. Let's move back to the time when you start studying abroad. Mm-hmm. When did you start to have the idea of studying abroad? At a very young age.
I'm feeling like studying abroad for me was a dream since I was very little. Because I'm kind of curious about what's going on outside Vietnam. So I started researching around, I think, grade 6 or so.
Grade 6?
Starting with IELTS, about grade 7. And that just kind of, the dream has been nurturing me for a long time until I actually had the opportunity to study in the UK.
So at that time, did you have any plans for your future in your mind?
I dreamt to be a politician, or at least someone who's actually could contribute to my country, but I did not have an idea of what I wanted to be in the future.
But then what inspired you to be who you are now?
I always look up to my mom, my grandpa and my dad. They're all very respectable people, and also someone who worked really hard. They told me to work hard for what I believe in, and we are very firm on our ideology. So I just keep working, and that is where I am today.
Yes, I think that mom and dad are the best teachers and our all-time favorite idols.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes, so we all know that you're doing a lot of things, from PhD to teaching fellow at different universities in the world. So I want to ask, how do you start? Like you decided to stay in England, but not coming back to Vietnam.
I actually haven't decided whether I would, my destinations would be Vietnam or not. I really enjoy spending my time in Vietnam with my families and my relatives and friends. But actually, because I finished my PhD in London and I want to have experience of working in a professional environment, academia in the UK and also abroad. So I just keep pursuing that track until I find an appropriate job in Vietnam.
When I look at your CV, I just, wow. How could you do all of those things? Like you get this scholarship from this one to another one, and people call you a scholarship hunter.
Really?
Do you have any tips to that?
I wouldn't call myself a scholarship hunter, but I would go for the scholarships that would fit me at the appropriate point in time. So, for example, even if I go for a summer school, I would always try to apply to a scholarship so that it would be I would be funded to go there without actually having to pay, and creating extra financial burden, isn't it?
Yeah. So how long did it take you to have a preparation for a scholarship?
It's hard to say. It depends on the the level of difficulties that you're actually facing. For example, when I applied to a university in the US, at that point, I spent quite a long time, probably about a month or 2 months of writing off my personal statements, preparing all my documentations. But for like smaller scholarships, I wouldn't spend more than a week or so.
Oh, because you are too accustomed to doing so.
I guess it gets better with time. It gets shorter as well. It's some things like knowledge, it accumulates.
So have you ever failed at that?
Oh yes, definitely. What
Really?
you've seen is just the tip of the iceberg. I think my rate to the best would be 10%.
10% of failure?
Yeah.
That's
Well, no, I mean 10% of success.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that surprised me. But how could you deal with that failure when you fail a scholarship?
I think a failing a scholarship should just be a norm, because there are very few scholarships, and there's so many applicants. So at the very first time, I cry a lot. I actually, staying in bed for a couple of days.
Oh.
And then I realized that, it just happens and I have to move on. There will be other scholarships that will be more appropriate for me.
Well, that sounds comforting for me, because I know that the youngsters like me will fail a lot. And when we hear you say that, a really successful woman will feel more motivated and inspired.
Oh, I failed so many things in life.
Yeah, but luckily you know what you failed, and you know to overcome it and get more achievements in the future. So we would love to talk about, your life. Personal life.
Okay.
So we will go back to your professional life, but let's have a break at your personal life. Now, you have a baby. How old is he?
She's
she?
Yeah, she's actually 5 years and a half right now. Yeah.
So how about your work-life balance? Like, you go to a lot of countries to teach.
Yeah, I don't think I actually have a proper work-life balance. I'm still trying to learn how to do it properly. I feel, well, let's say this. Actually, you can't do everything within 24 hours, right? So I try to, first of all, plan very carefully, and then also try to prioritize what actually matters to me. And then, actually, I have to sacrifice a lot of sleep.
You don't sleep much?
I can't, basically, especially I share it with other moms as well, because when you have younger children, you have to stay up late, and also you have to wake up early every morning.
So your husband is a Vietnamese also?
Yes, he is.
Well, wow. So you guys get married in Vietnam and then move back to England?
Yeah.
Wow. So does your child speak Vietnamese?
Oh, she does. She does speak Vietnamese pretty well, I think.
So now you're residing in London. How many times a year do you come back to Vietnam with your kid?
With my kid, I think probably in the last 2 years we've done an annual trip to Vietnam. We just spent the Tet holiday in Vietnam this year, so really enjoyed it. I hope that we can do it annually.
So I know that on this trip, when you go back to Vietnam, you're doing a Vietnam summer school in research. Can you tell us more about that?
So a year ago, me and Vũ is another PhD in economics at Harvard University. We sat down together and we say, what we could do for Vietnam, and we think that we could bring some modern methodologies in research to Vietnamese students and also kind of young researchers. So it has taken us a year for this summer school to happen. But we also do not just think about the students themselves, but also all of the revenues minus the operating costs would be donated to the National Children's Hospital. Wow! So this year we have done our missions, and we're very proud of what we have achieved.
So that's complete.
Yeah, that's just completed. Yeah.
How long does that course take?
We had 2 weeks in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. Actually, to be more precise, it's actually 4 days in Hanoi and 4 days in Ho Chi Minh.
Oh, that's beautiful for me. Because, you know, I'm a student and I'm really bad at research. Do you have any tips for me to be better at research?
I think that the biggest mistake is to overthink what it is about. Research is basically finding the answers to your questions. So if you have questions that you're so curious about, you just go and find the answers until you feel completely satisfied with your answers. Then I feel that actually is research.
But it requires a lot of reading, right?
Well, sometimes it's reading, sometimes it's other materials. A lot of people like to go to find manuscripts, watching documentaries. Sometimes you go and talk to people. It kind of varies, a lot of methods around doing research. But I think the biggest tips would be you have to set your principles, right? And then also you have to think about getting the right questions. If you have a good questions, it would be highly possibly that you would get good answers.
So along all of the methods for research, what is your favorite method?
It's really hard to say. I'm teaching social network analysis, and it's a method that stems from sociology, because it looks at the world as not just causal relationships between things or between events, but it looks at the world as very complex. So it's, for example, how we interact with each other as members of a network, how organizations interact with people, how we kind of affect each other in terms of our decisions. So I'm feeling like it actually reflects what I believe in.
Wow. Talking to you, I feel like I really want to attend one of your classes.
You're welcome to.
Yeah. If you are my lecturer, I would be always feel in love with going to classes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot.
So let's move back to your professional world. Now, people will love to ask a question. Please tell us 5 important milestones in your professional world, because you got a lot of achievements. We love to hear that.
Well, counting from the day I was born.
Until now, 2018.
Well, it is really hard to nail down to number 5, but I believe that I think the day when I decided, and also kind of got my permission from my parents' permissions to study in London, it actually quite a big turning point in my life. So probably that's 1.
Okay, number 1. Number 2.
Number 2 would be the day me and my husband, we decided to study to study master together after we got married. And we at that moment we didn't think about whether we're going to pursue PhD or not, but we always want to spend time together, but also we want to improve our academic knowledge. Wow. So probably that's number 2.
Number 2.
Number
3. I guess when you give birth to your kid.
I guess so. It is so close together when I started my PhD, and also I've got my first baby. So at that time it was very important. I think it's an important milestone. And the day when I got the probably an achievement. So I was named as one of the 12 young economists in London. Well, not London, sorry.
England.
In England.
Wow. So
it was a turning point for me, because I was very proud of that achievement. And probably the day I wore the gown. It's a Tudor gown for my PhD graduation.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. How do you manage to study from, master to PhD, and now you still do research? Like, what keep you moving?
I think I'm not a superstitious person. But I believe that one thing will lead to another. Everything is like, every event in your life is like connecting the dots. Yeah. So one thing happens that will lead to another thing. So when I finished my master, I've got the best postgraduate research award, and the university, my professors as well came to me and say, I think it's worth pursuing PhD and doing further research on this topic. So it just led to another event, and after I finished my PhD, almost finished it, then I tried to find, a job, or probably a postdoc, and then I got offered at Harvard, and I'm feeling okay. So let's do it.
Yeah. So opportunities and opportunities, and you
Yes,
just capitalize on all the opportunities
Yes,
you
exactly.
have.
Yes.
I heard that you get married when you are preparing to study master, and then you got pregnant.
PhD.
PhD.
Yes,
And
yeah.
you also got pregnant while you're studying PhD.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you?
It was really hard. I had to make the decisions whether I would 100% focus on having a baby and raising a child, and probably it will mean that I have to go back to Vietnam to do that with the help of my parents, or I would have to do that here
alone.
With the help of my husband, but actually doing a PhD together. So I'm feeling like, okay, probably I'm too greedy. I wouldn't want to sacrifice either.
Aww.
So I just decided to do both.
Oh, that's women empowerment. I could feel in this area. Now, let's talk about English, because a lot of viewers here are English learners, including me. I just love your voice in British accent. It's so cool. So how do you start learning English? Before you study abroad?
I started with the help, of course, with very dedicated teachers in English, and somehow I struggled at first a lot. I spoke American English, and I watch a lot of movies and listen to a lot of songs, English songs, and I'm feeling like it's actually a beautiful language, so I just keep doing that. And I think what changed me the most is when I keep thinking about how I can get better. I keep looking for books, so I'm a bit obsessed with bookstores.
What kinds of books?
I would go for a lot of books like history, encyclopedia, and think about biographies. And I'm not into fiction, but I'm into non-fiction books. So I try to read one book after another, and I'm feeling like I need
all
to
in English?
In English, yes. Yeah. So I'm feeling like I need to learn a lot more in order to read this comfortably. And I like to watch BBC. I love BBC documentaries. So I'm feeling like that is something that I really need to improve on day by day.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier you wanted to become a politician.
I wanted to, no longer.
So yeah, I know your hobbies are reading books and watching BBC documentary. Do you have any other hobbies, like you're just entertaining yourself, relaxing?
I'm just like any other humans. I have a lot of hobbies that take a lot of time. For example, like watching YouTube. I love watching YouTube. And it could be any kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love watching Vietnamese is that reality shows?
Yeah, reality shows.
Reality shows, yeah. And one of other things I like to do is actually walking. Walking, yeah. Because actually it refreshes your mind, and it gives you a boost of health without too much straining on your body.
That's probably the reason why you look really fit.
Oh, thank you.
Fit and young compared to your age. Okay, so did you find any difficulties when you learn English at early stage?
Yes, a lot. When I studied English in the beginning, there were not many foreigners, there were not many English-speaking natives in Vietnam, so I had to rely on, for example, listening to BBC and like Voice America, for example. So I struggled in the beginning to find what is the right way to pronounce a word, for example, or also like how to say a sentence properly. And I struggle to find a style of writing that actually is not just a Vietnamese way of writing, but how to write it in the way that is comprehensible to Englishmen, but also trying to say it beautifully.
Yes.
Try to combine a bit of Vietnamese elements into it as well.
Did it take you a long time to do so?
Yes, I'm still learning.
You're still learning?
I am.
But
yes.
I think now you're more comfortable talking in English, right? Because you're living there?
Yes, because I work and I live in England, so it's just like a day-to-day thing.
Yeah. So if you give to the viewers some advice in learning English, what would that be?
I'm feeling like it takes time. Don't rush, and trying to find good materials to help you. For example, you start with grammar, then try to do it properly. So to learn grammar properly before you think about using it. And then with reading, try to understand the, for example, the purpose of the authors. So who wrote that and for what purpose. I think it would help you kind of predict or anticipate what's about to come in reading passages. For writing, I think my tip for writings would be just say directly what you want to say, instead of a lot of essays that I've read actually go, quite superfluous and go around about borders. So I think just say it directly. If you lack vocabulary, you can build it with time, but your logic would be something that they look out for the most.
Oh, wow. So you talk a lot about books. I know you are a book lover. Could you tell us one specific name of a book that you love, that others can also read?
Well, actually, it's so tough to find a single book.
Maybe two.
I like to read philosophy books. I enjoy Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu. What is that about?
Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So you can find the Vietnamese version. And I love Sun Tzu. It's actually because I feel it's like a condensed wisdom that he's bringing, and it's actually pretty applicable to your daily life. It's not just the ancient wisdom. And I love to read Aristotle. So
that's pretty harsh. We learned that at school. And I find it really hard
to
understand.
Yeah, I didn't understand it at first. I spent a lot of time reading and reread it.
You reread it and then you understand it after a lot of times reading.
So I have, if I don't understand anything, I just come to my professor, who's also a philosopher. I ask him what does it mean, what he's trying to say. Sometimes with ancient books where you will need to spend a lot of time, and also probably it will get better with age.
Yeah, talking to you, I feel like I got more interested in philosophy books. And I know that curiosity is something that keeps us moving and learning on a daily basis.
Definitely.
So did you struggle a lot when you first came to England?
I think I struggled a lot with homesick. Being really homesick. So there was a day when I felt like I missed my parents so much, and my test result came out terribly.
Not really good.
Not really good. So I felt like I really want to talk to my parents, and I cry a lot. But afterwards I received advice from my parents saying that because it's your decision and you have to be strong, and just keep thinking that whatever I'm doing at that point was the whole family is doing it together, even though they were not physically with me.
Yeah. So was it hard to be totally immersed in a new cultural and living environment?
At first, I felt like there was a lot of things I didn't understand, and my dean at the dean of school at that time, he advised me to watch a lot of TVs, which is quite counter-interactive.
What did you watch at that time?
I just watch a lot of shows, and especially on different channels of BBCs and ITV and things. At first I thought, well, it's just entertainment, it didn't help me a lot. But then I realized that I learned about British humor. I learned about how they talk to each other, what kind of accent, but also what kind of collocations, words with words. And I realized that it gives me a totally different look at the British culture and the communities. So
could you recall a terrible story of you when you first came to England, when you find it hard to get over it?
I cannot pinpoint to a single story, but I felt like it was really difficult for me when I faced a secretary of a university. So she couldn't understand what I really want to do, because I keep using like very Vietnamese way. I didn't say things directly to her face. Like I wanted to ask her something, but I just kind of sort of suggest her.
Yeah.
So she couldn't get it. And when I realized that my package was not delivered to the university, I was so disappointed, but I didn't say it out. So there was a lot of misunderstanding, and we had to see the head of department to resolve it.
And then how did you resolve it?
Well, it's just difference in culture, isn't it? Like the secretary want me to say it directly to her via email, what I want to do and where I want to keep my package. But I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I thought that it just automatic and she would get it straight away.
That was probably the first lesson that I learned when I came to another country.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for students who would love to study abroad to be fully prepared?
I think that probably you could start gradually if you have the opportunity to, right? So if you can, first of all, interact with people from different cultures, try to experience, maybe go to Singapore if you can, or go to summer camps where you can actually interact with foreigners. That could be the first step. And then you probably could read about their culture. There are currently a lot of books about British cultures or even like American culture that you could do. Watch YouTube, see how people talk to each other, how they express their views. And I think it's kind of like try and errors.
Yeah, try and error.
Especially when you're young, right? So you can make a lot of errors without being punished for it.
And now a really popular book in Vietnam, Lenin. About woman empowerment, and people talk a lot about that. And they find it hard to choose between work and life, like what should women do, or what opportunities that are left for women when they giving birth to the kid. So how girls and women should be prepared to face that prejudice or their situation that the world is giving to us.
I read the book, Sheryl Sandberg. It was a very motivational book. It's actually say a lot of right things.
Sure.
I think one of the advice that Sheryl gave us was trying to find the right man. So before you get married, probably find someone who you already say to him, this is your dream, this is where you think you're going to be, whether he can support it or not. Yeah. So sometimes in love you have to be a little bit rational.
Sure.
If you actually think about women, we face prejudice as well, but men do face prejudice because they're under pressure to achieve something in life. Yes. So I think for both men and women, if you want to pursue career, if you want to do anything, you really go for it and you work hard for it, and I think success will come. And that's how each other support each other, especially when you are a husband and a wife. So motivating. Listening to your stories, I just want to get married to the right person. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I hope I would do that in the future.
The right person at the right time.
Yeah. That's such an interesting talk to you. I learned a lot. And I hope that all of you are learning a lot from our one and only Jenny Tuệ Anh. So before we end the show, we have some games.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope I can do it.
A teaching fellow will play some games on IELTS FACE-OFF. Watch out. And the first game is Would You Rather game. Yeah, you know the rules. You have to choose one out of two. All right, we have 6 questions for you. Be prepared. Let's go. Would you rather be alone for the rest of your life or always be surrounded by annoying people?
Ooh, it's nerve-wracking. I'm gonna choose to be alone.
Really?
I don't like to be surrounded by annoying people.
A little bit lonely?
Yeah, I'm actually already be surrounded by 4 wolves in my lap. So
okay.
Get accustomed to it.
Okay, got it. Now, would you rather never use social media sites again or never watch another movie or TV show?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so hard. Probably never social media.
Really? You love movie and TV show that much?
Well, actually, because I don't want to miss out on the documentaries, and there's a lot of fun movies I haven't watched. So I need to reserve my time for those things.
But it would be really hard to keep up to date.
True. Yeah, definitely. But because it's a Would You Rather, so I have to choose.
Yeah, we have to make sacrifice.
Yes, yes.
Would you rather lose all of your money and valuables or all of the pictures you have taken?
Oh, it hurts. I don't have a lot of money, so I would treasure my pictures.
Sure.
Yeah.
It can never be get back.
Yeah. Or if I already print them out, Let's see. Probably I would just print them all out first, and then keep all my belongings. Yeah.
Okay, that's smart. Would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into your own future or 10 minutes into your past?
I already had my past, so I
like
wouldn't want
the previous life.
Previous life.
Yeah.
I don't believe in previous life, so I'm gonna see 10 minutes in my future. And when in the future, it's hard to say, but probably I just want to see how I'm gonna be, or where I'm gonna be in about 5 years.
Yeah. Be more prepared.
True.
And now, would you rather have a horrible job but be able to retire comfortably in 10 years, or have a dream job but have to work until the day you die?
Oh,
I could guess your answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna work until the day I die because I'm scared of being jobless.
Yeah, sure. Would you rather, the fun question, would you rather give up bathing for a month or give up the internet for a month?
Bathing?
Yeah.
For a month?
Or give up the internet for a month.
So without shower for a month?
Yes.
Oh gosh, no. No, I can give up the internet for a month.
So now, give up bathing for a month and give up internet for a year.
A year?
Yes, would you rather?
I cannot work without the internet for a year. Oh my god, it's gonna be very stinky, but I'm gonna choose to stay with the internet.
Stay with internet and give up bathing for a month. Yeah, that's the 6th question. Would you rather?
Cool, thanks a lot.
And now let's move to the 2nd game, which is 5-second rules. So here's the rule. Within a duration of 5 seconds, we will in turn each other a question. And we will have to give 3 answers to that question in just 5 seconds. Alright? Let's see.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, I'll try my best also. Let's see who wins. Probably you.
You want to start?
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Easy first. Name 3 female singers.
Mariah Carey, Rihanna, and Celine Dion.
Alright.
Name 3 Disney princesses.
Elsa, Lily, and Cinderella.
Okay, well done.
Name 3 animal sounds.
Tubik, cuckoo, meow. Name 3 vegetables.
A cabbage, coconut, or okay. That's part. I don't like veggies much.
1-0.
Okay. 1.
Okay.
You went first. All right. What do you move to England?
It's cool. It's windy and it's fun.
All right.
Wow, that is really hard.
Yeah.
Okay, name 3 things that keeps you warm.
A coat, a watch, and also my heart.
Oh, great. Awesome.
Okay. It's hard for you. Name 3 football players.
Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, and Ronaldinho.
Ronaldinho. All right. It passed.
Okay. Name 3 fruits.
That is coconut, jackfruit, and watermelon.
Oh, great. Awesome.
All right. Name 3 characteristics of your kid.
Mischievous, naughty, fun.
Cool. The word fun is really easy to say.
Because you asked me something, okay, I'm gonna ask you back. Name 3 football teams.
Oh, Chelsea, Manchester United, and Manchester. Yeah.
Manchester United and Manchester City?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
Manchester City.
Cool. Okay.
And this one will be the one to decide who will win.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay, so it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be really tough.
Okay, name 3 fish.
Oh, salmon, tuna, and fish.
Fish is not a fish. Alright.
Alright. I know you're good at this, so I will ask you, even though I don't know the answers to this. Name 3 countries in Africa.
Oh, Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt.
Alright. Don't let me tell names anymore and bet it down.
Okay, so I win?
Okay.
Yeah, overall, what's the punishment?
Probably...
We didn't decide that before.
Yeah, what is punishment? What do you think that should be?
I don't know. That probably you have to do something that after the show is over.
Yeah,
I'll keep it in the book.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, definitely. So bravo to Jenny.
Thank you.
So that is our talk and our playing game sections with the guest, Jenny. Thank you so much for being on the show. So we have learned a lot about your professional life, your personal life, and it's so motivational. Could you give to the audience some words before the end of the show?
I hope you enjoy the show, and whenever you face obstacles in life, just believe in yourself, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and I wish you all the best of luck also. I really look up to you. I just want to be like you in the future. Yeah, can I give you a hug? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you so much for watching. We love you guys. Bye.